Let's now take you live to Kyiv, where we're joined by journalist Maria Pysarenko. Good evening, Maria. Firstly, paint us a picture of the situation on the ground 1 month now into this war.
Good evening. Yes, right now I'm in Old Town Kyiv, kind of city center of Kyiv, and here the life recently these days, kind of several days, is trying to get back to normal. We even see pizzerias, cafes working again. We see much more people right now in the streets, much more traffic, a lot of cars, people walking around with coffees and pretending it to be kind of normal life. Especially we had a good weather for recent days. The spring this year is very cold, and we had sun during these recent days, and everything seems kind of normal, and people really do want to go back to normal as they see that the situation in Kyiv is under control, that the city is not under Russian siege and not even close to Russian encirclement. Though this feel of kind of ease and new normality in city center could be misleading, because we still have the shelling and bombing on the outskirts of Kyiv. So what we have seen during this week, where the bombing of the shopping center on the outskirts called Retroville, a very heavy bombing took place there, and the pictures of debris of this huge shopping center were really shocking for everybody. We also see that Russians continue to strike Kurinivka area, which is not very far from here, actually. We see the attacks on Obolon area, on Podil area, for example. They again tried to target the parking lot several days ago. So here and there, we still see Russian strikes on Kyiv, but inside the city center and in capital, and also on the outskirts in residential areas, people are trying to kind of embrace this new normality and trying to live their life, because now a lot of people don't have work. They do not have to go to work because of war, and they are trying to have walks in the streets to kind of feel the situation here. And these needs to run to the bomb shelters are really what make everybody nervous. So people spend their days running down to the shelters because of air sirens, and we usually have from kind of 3 to 5 air sirens a day. So it is really stressful, but people surprisingly, strangely, I guess, have adapted already to this. And it's good seeing for all people in Kyiv that right now Kyiv is under a good control of Ukrainian army.
So, Maria, as you mentioned, people are trying to sort of find that sense of normality there. But, we were hearing reports that people are still holed up in parts of the country, even there in the capital, and are being starved out. What can we make of those reports that people are still sheltering there in the subways, etc.?
Yeah, right. So subways are now for a lot of people here in Kyiv, and the bomb shelters for people not in cities, not in capital city, but in other cities, have become already new homes. So they have to stay there. They live there, spend their nights there for the whole time, and then walking out only to go, for example, grocery shopping or for short walks. Regarding food supplies, the situation in Kyiv is pretty normal, is under control. So the city council announced that we have a good supply of food, and we see the trucks with groceries coming to the grocery shops, the supermarkets. So the supply chain is kind of also trying to rejuvenate, restore its capacities for the recent days, recent week, actually, because the situation in Kyiv more calm than it was at the beginning of war. In Kyiv, no problem with food supplies. We also have a big network of volunteers who work in Kyiv, in other cities, trying to help other volunteers, civilian people, bring them ready-made food, bring them groceries. We have huge supplies of humanitarian aid, food from abroad, which is also distributed by this enormous, actually, network of volunteers which has appeared during this 1 month of war. So in center of country, no problem with food supply. But, for example, to the north of Kyiv, in Irpin, Bucha, and Hostomel, we see the news that people are still under Russian siege. So now there are are some movements and some success for Ukrainian army, but people have spent there more than 10 days in bomb shelters without food or water. And the situation in other cities such as Mariupol is just devastating. People there do not have access to food, to outer world. They do not go out of bomb shelters because the city is heavily bombed. 90% of Mariupol city is just destroyed. Also, neighboring cities such as Berdyansk and also Kherson, these all cities are in the south of Ukraine. I have talked to people there who I personally know, and they say, yes, they still have some groceries, some products in their shops, but the supplies are running low, and the cash on hands of people is also getting away, so people have less and less money, and what to expect next is really under a big question. So in Kyiv, situation is under control in southern parts and also north to Kyiv. Very troubling news from there.
And, just very briefly, Maria, we do need to go out for a break shortly. But, at the beginning of this, 1 month ago, we were seeing these incredible pictures of huge lines of cars trying to, get out of the city there. Are people still trying to leave? Are these humanitarian corridors existing still?
Yeah, but humanitarian corridors are more important and working for the cities which I mentioned, which are Mariupol, Berdyansk in the south of Ukraine, where there is really humanitarian catastrophe, and also for Irpin, which is to the north of Kyiv. No humanitarian corridor needed in Kyiv because here situation is stable, and now we have even people who come back from abroad or from Lviv, for example, to Kyiv, and there is for now no lines, no big crowds of people on the central railway station. So kind of a pretty strange situation because the war is not over, but people are trying to get back home already.